So some of you naughty boys and girls have been writing off Oleksii Novikov. You saw him at World's Strongest Man, didn't get through the group. Everyone, not everyone, there's people out there, I've seen the comments saying he's a one-hit wonder, he's not strong, blah, 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 blah.
Strongman's becoming too fast. Fastest man. And
straight away, Oleksii Novikov bouncing back to win an international show. He is an incredible athlete. He had an extremely tough group at World's Strongest Man. Straight away, though, comes back to Giants Live and taking away a first place. Now, this is a young man who's already won 6 international shows. He's going to have a blistering career. I think he has potential to win more World's Strongest Man shows. Mm-hmm. He has potential to win lots of other big international shows. Now, that's not saying he's going to do it or guarantee anything.
No, of course.
But to write him off from one, and let's not even say a poor performance. World's Strongest Man and the heats are extremely tough.
The odds were really stacked against him, though. When you look at I know he didn't make the finals, but the events in the finals were not suited to him. But then that group, the reason it's very rare for the reigning champion to not make the finals is because they're usually heavily seeded the following year, aren't they? Now, we did our own little how would we split the groups, and people can look at it and say, well, that was fair enough because there was only that finalist and that finalist. But what people I don't feel were considering were the sort of, the underdog seeds, if you like, the guys that we know are really good. And that was exactly what was in Oleksii's group. He had Bobby Thompson, Luke Stoltman, who else? Kevin Ferris. It was a stacked group. It really was.
It really was.
And it was close as well. It's not like anyone ran away with it. It was marginal. Literally split seconds made all the difference in that group, and he didn't even get the chance to do the stones.
He didn't. And, but this is the thing with Strongman. You can have one event that doesn't go your way. It does not mean you're not a great strongman or you're not going to come back and, perform really well at the next show. And it's always why when I look at predictions and shows, I look at the events, I look at who's in shape, and you don't always go with the same guys.
No, of course
because there's so many factors. Now, one thing that is impressive about this guy is he's very good across the board. He doesn't have particularly many weaknesses, and you see that from this competition. Yeah. Very quickly, we'll go through the results here. He's got second place on the axle. Now, I said this in another video, but really impressive watching him on the axle. Hit 190 on the axle. His warm-ups were just meticulous. You can see the strategy, the technical aspects that he has. Every single rep from his very first warm-up were all performed in the same manner. Now, I massively respect this. And I think if you're an up-and-coming athlete, these are the kind of things you can learn from guys like Oleksii Novikov. Yeah. If you can make sure you treat those warm-up reps as technical practice, it's going to help, because by the time you get to the heavy weights, the working sets, it's all ingrained. The movement pattern is mastered, and you're just going for that same movement, and it's just more power. Real smart athlete, gets the most out of his body. Next event was a Hercules hold. Now, this is his weakest event. Yeah. Grip strength, not notoriously his best event, but, a solid performance, mid-table. Yeah. After that, he blitzes this show, to be honest. The deadlift, he comes second in. Now, we know kind of he's good at higher deadlifts. The axle deadlift is a much tougher deadlift.
And it's not higher, despite how it looks. You're stood on a platform, aren't you?
Oh, it's actually slightly lower than a normal deadlift, the axle, because there's no flex. You just get the whole weight straight in your hands. The whole weight kind of has to come up together. You don't get that middle of the bar flexing and coming up first.
It's also slightly further away from you and slightly lower down because of the thickness of the bar, isn't it?
It is very much. I got caught out with that. I was panicking in the suit, couldn't breathe, and my first rep was terrible because I just was I was kind of absolutely panicking in the wrong position.
That first rep had me all sorts of worried.
But Oleksii, great solid performance on the deadlift. His frame walk was unbelievably fast. That was just blistering. And then a solid performance on the stones as well. He is very consistent. He makes himself hard to beat because there is no area where he drops points. And I think he's going to go on this year. And if he's not winning shows, he's going to be contending top threes. And, pretty much every show he does, he's always going to be up there because there is no big weakness. I really do believe he's got a few more World's Strongest Man titles in him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're going to see some great battles between the likes of a returning Kiliashkovsky, Lissis, Tom Stoltman, Evan Singleton. If Iron Bibi decides to focus on things like World's Strongest Man, it would be good to put him in that mix.
Brian Shaw's still
still going.
good.
JF Karan's still going. There's a whole host of guys we could kind of talk about.
Yeah.
And so many up-and-coming youngsters as well. The battles that we're going to see over this year and the next few years are going to be epic. But an athlete like Novikov can never be overlooked. He is such a smart athlete. And I like to call him an athlete. He's not just a strong man. And this is where sometimes people do go wrong with strongman. They look at the sport or they see the name and they think it's about a deadlift or it's about a press. Well, most competitions you take a 6-event competition, you may have 2 events that involve the static strength. So if you're good enough at those, but then you excel in like a movement event, an Atlas Stones, a throwing event, etc., and you're good all round, you make yourself very, very hard to beat. And that's why Novikov is so good.
And that's why we love the sport as well, because of the variety, because it tests strength in so many different ways. If I just wanted to see static strength, I'd watch powerlifting. And no offense to powerlifters, I've been to many meets with Lars and I find it so boring.
I mean, I love powerlifting. I love all forms of strength.
Yeah.
But you don't enjoy watching me do powerlifting.
I need to be entertained. I want gravel in. No, well, maybe not. That one is a bit ridiculous. But I do want to see the different tests of strength. I love it. I love seeing them.
Paul has come to watch me do grip competitions. She's seen me at powerlifting shows. You see me at all sorts of shows.
I've seen you do all sorts of boring crap.
But strongman is entertaining, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. It's the scariest of them all. But it is my favourite still.
And you were impressed with Novikov this weekend?
I'm massively impressed. And so good to see him bounce back so quickly as well. Because I think something like what happened at World's Strongest Man, it could break a lesser athlete. It really could. I think that's
a good point to bring up.
Confidence knock.
Because, I think that's one of the reasons I can really see this guy going on to be a great of the sport.
Yeah.
Having those knockbacks and coming back from them is what separates, if you like, the men from the boys. I've seen a lot of guys have one knockback and they're gone.
Yeah.
And this is a tough sport. I mean, if you can't take a knockback, you're in the wrong sport. You know, you're going to get injuries. You're going to get competitions that don't go your way.
Yeah.
You have to learn to get over them quickly, learn from the mistakes that you make, come back and do better next time. And he does that every single time. I've been impressed with Tom Stoltman. He's been able to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the top guys do. They just brush their shoulders off if an event doesn't go well for them, focus on the next comp.
All the top guys have suffered so much disappointment as well. If you look at their careers, I mean, how long did it take Zadrunas to win World's Strongest Man finally? He first competed there in 1998. 2009 was his first win. Thor, the same story, 2011, and then 2018 he finally won.
And so many guys that have had to take time, you know, guys that picked up injuries, guys that got knocked back, guys that had to learn and come back and get better.
Yeah.
It's not about just going in there, being undefeated, and, you know, it's not that kind of sport.
It's a humbling sport.
It is. And I think that's one of the things that I like about it. It sort of tests your mental as well as physical side. And the guys all tend to have great respect for each other. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say is Novikov broke my phone on the weekend.
Yeah, no respect for that.
He messaged me, apologised.
You didn't realise he'd done it.
He didn't realise he'd done it.
To be fair, you put your phone on the floor in the middle of a strongman competition.
It was my fault. But, you know...
You used it as an excuse to buy yourself a nice new phone, didn't you?
I couldn't be without a phone. But, you know, he's the kind of guy, he felt really bad about it. He reached out and apologised.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
He's a great guy, and it was just good to see him straight away back to winning ways. I'm expecting big things from him. I'm expecting some big battles, and I'm looking forward to watching it. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.